You probably think people get what they want by being honest, respectful, or just asking nicely. But that is rarely how the real world works. Most of the time, people use subtle forms of influence to shape your decisions without you even noticing. This is manipulation, and it happens every day in relationships, at work, and even in casual conversations. Sometimes it looks like charm, sometimes it feels like guilt, silence, or even logic. Psychologists have uncovered 11 powerful strategies that are hardwired into human behavior. These tactics are so instinctive that people often use them without realizing it. You might have used some yourself or been on the receiving end without knowing. This breakdown is not meant to turn you into a manipulator. It is meant to help you recognize manipulation, defend yourself against it, and better understand how human psychology plays out in real life. Welcome to Psyvoria. Let us uncover what is really happening beneath the surface. Tactic 1. Charm. This is the softest and most deceptive form of manipulation, and that is exactly why it works. Charm disarms your defenses without a fight. A smile, a compliment, a flirty gesture, or even a playful tone can create an emotional bond that makes you more likely to say yes. It is not always malicious, but it is always strategic. The person using charm wants something from you, and they know that making you feel attractive or wanted is the quickest way to get it. Charm plays on your need for connection, on your desire to be seen and appreciated. It makes their request feel like a gift instead of a demand. But what you might not see is the invisible string attached to that compliment. Behind the smile is a goal, and behind the charm is control. Charmers don't force you to act. They make you want to. That is why charm is one of the most dangerous tools in manipulation, because you never feel like you're being manipulated at all. Tactic 2. Coercion. Coercion strips away choice and replaces it with fear. Unlike charm, which pulls you in with warmth, coercion pushes you into submission with threats. The manipulator uses consequences as a weapon, making you feel that if you don't do what they want, something bad will happen. It could be emotional harm, physical harm, social isolation, or a financial loss. The fear doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's quiet but heavy, like a threat that hangs in the air. Coercion turns relationships into power plays. It's not about respect or understanding. It's about control. When someone says, "If you don't do this, I'll make you regret it," they've crossed the line into psychological warfare. Coercion doesn't persuade you. It traps you. And the more you give into it, the harder it becomes to escape the cycle. The danger here isn't just in the threat. It's in how quickly your decisions stop being yours. Tactic 3. Silent treatment. Silence may seem harmless, but in the hands of a manipulator, it becomes a weapon. When someone you care about suddenly stops speaking to you without explanation, it triggers anxiety, guilt, and desperation for resolution. That desperation can push you to do anything just to break the silence. Manipulators know this. They use silence not as a pause, but as punishment. You replay every word you said, wondering what went wrong, even if you did nothing wrong. Over time, you begin to associate peace with compliance, thinking that giving in is the only way to restore harmony. But this tactic isn't about conflict resolution. It's about control. By withholding communication, the manipulator forces you to act on their terms. You lose your voice trying to earn theirs back. Recognize that not all silence is golden. Some silence is calculated. Some silence is designed to break you, not heal you. Tactic 4. Reason. On the surface, reason seems noble, logical, ethical, even persuasive. But manipulation often hides behind intellect. A skilled manipulator knows how to twist reason into a tool of control. They don't shout. They explain, calmly, convincingly, and with just enough truth to make their argument hard to reject. They might say, "If you really cared, you would help me," or "Doesn't it make sense to do this for us?" The facts may be accurate, but the intention is not. Reason becomes pressure in disguise. You find yourself agreeing not because you truly believe, but because it feels wrong to disagree. It feels selfish. It feels cold. And that's the genius of this tactic. It makes manipulation look like mutual understanding. But when reason is used not to inform, but to influence, to corner, to sway without space for dissent, it stops being reason. It becomes rhetoric, and you must learn to spot the difference. Logic without empathy is just another mask for control. Tactic 5, regression. Sometimes manipulation doesn't come with force or reason. It comes with tears, pouts, or emotional outbursts. Regression is when an adult reverts to childlike behavior to get their way. They might whine, sulk, or throw a passive tantrum until you cave in. At first, it seems immature or even harmless. But over time, it wears you down. You begin to associate peace with giving in. You avoid conflict by giving them what they want. And that's exactly the trap. The manipulator uses discomfort like a weapon, not through anger, but through helplessness. They force you into the role of caretaker or fixer, not because they can't cope, but because they don't want to. The tears might be real, but the pattern is strategic. Regression creates a silent pressure to restore emotional balance. And the fastest way to do that is to surrender. Recognizing this tactic is key, because once you see the behavior for what it is, you can respond with clarity instead of guilt. You can set boundaries without becoming the villain in their story. Tactic 6, self-abasement. Not all manipulation comes from a place of power. Sometimes it disguises itself as humility. Self-abasement is when someone deliberately lowers themselves, mocks their own worth, or makes self-deprecating remarks to gain sympathy, forgiveness, or favor. At first glance, it may seem like vulnerability or honesty, but look closer and you'll see the tactic unfold. The manipulator paints themselves as the underdog, the broken one, the flawed yet lovable figure. They say things like, "I'm such a failure," or "You're too good for someone like me." Not because they believe it, but because they want you to prove them wrong. They want you to reassure them, to forgive them, to stay. It's a form of emotional bait. And if you fall for it, you may find yourself carrying their guilt, justifying their mistakes, or even compromising your standards just to lift them up. True vulnerability invites connection, but self-abasement weaponizes it. It's a subtle form of emotional control, masked as self-doubt. And once you recognize it, you begin to understand that pity can be just as manipulative as pressure. Tactic 7, responsibility invocation. This tactic is all about using your own words and commitments against you. A manipulator will remind you of past promises, obligations, or social expectations to corner you into compliance. They might say, "But you said you'd always be there for me," or "I already made the reservation. You can't cancel now." It creates a trap where saying no makes you feel like the bad person. You're no longer dealing with a simple request. You're dealing with guilt, with pressure to follow through, with the fear of being seen as unreliable or uncaring. Responsibility invocation relies on your values, your integrity, your desire to keep your word. That's why it works so well. You feel bound by something you once said or agreed to, even if circumstances have changed, even if you no longer feel the same way. But just because you made a commitment once doesn't mean you must sacrifice your peace for it forever. Sometimes the most responsible thing you can do is say no when something no longer serves you. And the moment you realize that is the moment this tactic loses its power. Tactic 8, hardball. This is the most aggressive and dangerous form of manipulation, where subtlety disappears and raw force takes its place. Hardball tactics go beyond persuasion or emotional influence. They are rooted in direct threats, intimidation, and even the willingness to cause harm to get what they want. You might hear things like, "If you don't do this, I'll make sure you regret it," or "You'll lose everything if you walk away." These aren't empty words. They are weapons disguised as warnings. When someone uses hardball on you, they're not trying to convince you. They're trying to control you through fear. And the danger here is not just physical. It's emotional, psychological, and deeply manipulative. People who resort to hardball often have little empathy and no respect for boundaries. They don't negotiate. They dominate. If you ever find yourself in a situation where hardball is being used, remember this. You do not owe your obedience to anyone who threatens your well-being. Your safety, your dignity, and your freedom are not up for negotiation. Recognizing this tactic is the first step in reclaiming your power, and walking away from it is sometimes the bravest move you can make. Tactic 9. Pleasure induction. Not all manipulation wears a mask of cruelty. Sometimes it smiles at you, promises fun, and wraps its agenda in laughter and excitement. Pleasure induction is the tactic where someone convinces you to act by making the outcome seem enjoyable, harmless, even thrilling. Come on, it'll be fun. Don't be boring, just try it once. These phrases might sound innocent, but they are calculated. The manipulator frames their desire in a way that makes it seem like they're doing you a favor. The trap lies in how they sell the reward, not the risk. You may find yourself saying yes not because you truly want to, but because you don't want to miss out or seem dull. This tactic exploits your natural pull toward joy and your fear of rejection. It disguises pressure as persuasion, convincing you that you're making the choice freely. But when you step back and realize that your autonomy was quietly nudged, that's when you see it for what it is, a subtle form of control through the promise of pleasure. Recognize this charm for what it is. True joy should never need manipulation as its messenger. Tactic 10. Social comparison. This tactic slips into your mind quietly, like a whisper that says you are not enough. It plays on your instinct to compare, to measure your worth against someone else's. A manipulator uses social comparison to steer your choices without directly telling you what to do. They might say, "Your friend already did this," or "Everyone else seems to be moving ahead," planting seeds of doubt and urgency. Suddenly, you're not making a decision based on your values or desires. You're trying to keep up, try not to fall behind. This form of manipulation is powerful because it hijacks your self-image. It makes you believe that fitting in or measuring up is more important than listening to your own truth. And once that belief takes hold, you become easier to influence, easier to control. But the moment you become aware of this comparison game, the power shifts. You begin to see that your path is not meant to be a replica of someone else's. Your worth is not a reflection of their actions. The manipulator loses their grip the second you stop looking sideways and start walking forward with your own eyes open. Tactic 11. Monetary reward. This tactic may look like generosity on the surface, but underneath is a transaction for your will. When someone offers money or gifts in exchange for your compliance, they are not being kind. They are testing the price of your integrity. Manipulators who use monetary reward know that people are tempted by gain. They frame their demands as opportunities, as favors, as win-win situations. But there is always a cost. You may receive the reward, but in return, you surrender your agency. They want you to justify actions you would not normally take, to bend your principles because the payoff seems worth it. The danger here is subtle. It is not the reward that corrupts you. It is your willingness to compromise who you are to receive it. Once you say yes, even just once, the manipulator learned your currency. They know how to pull you in again. But when you choose to walk away from the offer, when you show that your character is not for sale, that is when you become untouchable. The truth is, manipulation is everywhere. It hides in charm, in silence, in logic, even in kindness. Most of us don't recognize it until we've already moved, already acted, already agreed. But now you see it. You've seen the 11 tactics. You've seen how they show up in your relationships, in your workplace, even in your own behavior. This isn't about becoming paranoid. It's about becoming powerful. When you recognize manipulation, you don't fall for it. When you understand these strategies, you no longer feel confused, guilty, or cornered. You become deliberate, aware, free. So the next time someone tries to shape your actions with charm or guilt or reason, you'll feel something different. You'll feel your mind waking up. You'll pause. You'll think. And that moment, that pause, is where your power lives. Stay curious. Stay conscious. And never stop learning how your mind works. This is Psyvoria,